Sometimes you have to close your eyes and start over to see things clearly.
Jake, Conor, thank you very much for taking the time. Really enjoyed the movie, but also its perspective. I mean, that's the thing that really got me about it, is the perspective it showed, but also giving viewers a different perception. Could you talk about that, both, looking at it as actor, writer, and also director, how you wanted to integrate that from both of your points of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think we wanted to tell a story really where the main character was the situation and the border, and then have a bunch of different perspectives into that, and have a voice with everything, whether it be a Texas father who wants to give his son, my character, a better life and maybe a way out of this ranching life on the border, or a Mexican father trying to take his son to a better life in the States, or a Mexican-American Texas Ranger who looks Mexican but doesn't speak Spanish, and he has to straddle both sides of the border. And even to a bad coyote who got across the border, but then was kind of left to be raised by wolves, and thus has made a life for himself and his problems. Hasn't necessarily become a good human being, and how that could happen. None of those are intrinsically bad people or good people, and I think that's the story we wanted to tell.
My dad says we don't live in America. We live in Texas.
I got narcos and smugglers on my property every day. Drugs and guns in our backyard.
Saving the ranch is not your job.
This is our home.
Get the hell off our land!
I don't want to lose it.
We're just passing by. We want no trouble.
Are you on?
Get back.
Dad!
I mean, Conor, did you want to follow up with that? Did you have any different things you wanted to do in terms of filmically showing that? And then I'll go about.
I certainly like the idea of having these parallel storylines of, a Texas father and son and a Mexican father and son. And at the beginning of the film, because of some forces that are out of their control, they collide, and tragedy happens. And then they kind of go off on their own journeys, but they're always, they're both looking for each other and, hoping that the way they chain, and they're looking for each other in a bad way. And you hope that over the course of the journey that they go under, by the time they meet again, they'll have changed enough so that tragedy doesn't strike twice.
So, basically what you're saying is that it's all self-defense. It's not basically. It's self-defense. Yeah, a lot of wet cattle roaming around when I got there. I've never seen a steer move towards gunfire before. My boy is laying in there clinging to his life. Maybe it's time I go sit with my wife now. No, we're almost done, sir. We're almost done. And what were y'all doing out there so late? Some kind of Minuteman thing there, son? We taking care of our family. It's just something you do, Well, this boy you shot, he has family too.
It was an accident.
Now, Jake, in terms of Jackson, both in writing it, but also playing it, it's almost an existential journey, and you can't play metaphor. You got to play the realness of the scenes. And we see time with him. Not sure how much time, but we do see time. Could you talk about finding that both in an acting point of view, but also understanding the backstory and those little elements of nuance within the character?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really challenging role. I think I wrote myself into some problems that I probably could have made easier for myself. But that's what you look for as an actor. That's what you want. And yeah, I mean, he does go on a very physical journey and an emotional journey. And I think throughout it, he's being physically beaten up, and he's literally losing his clothes. He's losing his hat and his jacket. He's getting beat up, but he's also like losing the borders that he's created, the walls of himself, the way he treats people. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene with a cow, when he's lost in the desert, and he's learning about himself through a cow, through being alone. When you're all alone, you're gonna get to thinking. And I think that's really where it all started with Jackson, or for Jackson.
That all you saw was hectic out there, son.
Self-defense. Just like my dad said.
Y'all couldn't just run him off.
We tried. We don't speak Spanish, Officer Ramirez.
I don't speak Spanish either, sir, and it's Ranger. You ever work horses, Ranger? No, sir, I never have.
You learn early on not to walk behind horses because they kick you in the head. You see, a long time ago, they used to be chased down by wolves, so as time went on, they stopped looking what was back there. They just kicked.
I have to remember that. And don't leave town, Mr. Greer.
Now, Conor, could you talk about letting the scenes breathe? Like Jake was just talking about that scene, which, you know, you have to let it sort of play out, with the leg of the calf. But that could be said, Jake, you setting out just writing and having those moments with the other workers. Those are the things. It's about creating time. Could you sort of talk about that and capturing that, Conor, visually?
Yeah, I mean, I think we wanted to show, like Jake was talking about, being beaten up over the course of this journey. Was we had this idea that, like, okay, if he's going to have this, if he's going to do this horrible thing at the beginning, and if we're going to allow him to potentially be redeemed at the end and not have it be schmaltzy, we're really he has to earn it. And in order to do that, we have to show we have to really put him through the ringer physically, emotionally, psychologically. And you have to have these sometimes moments of joy, sometimes moments of quiet, sometimes moments of pain where we see that. And sometimes I love that you point out, moments of quiet, because those are those introspective moments when the audience gets to catch up a little bit. We're past a cool horse chase or something, and it's like, okay, what's he these moments of like, okay, what's he thinking? What would I think if it was me or my son who was in this situation? And that lets the audience like emotionally catch up to you.
My dad didn't do nothing.
I know.
This ain't fair. They were on our land.
Well, come with me and we'll work it out.
You're not listening. This is their fault.
Shot a boy in the back.
You weren't there.
Well, I'm here now. Come with me, Jackson. Hey! Hey!
The aspect of what justice is, but what redemption is, and then what revenge is, it's different for every person. Could you talk about those metaphors within it? Because, this turns it on its end a little bit about what we think of when we think of those things.
Yeah. I think every character is affected by this tragic, fatal shooting that takes place. And every character, whether it be, with another character or by themselves, they all kind of go on their own introspective journey and hopefully all come out of it the other side, just a little bit different, and I don't think, even we talked earlier about what it would take for a father to forgive someone for killing their child. And would you really be able to come to that? And I think even George Lopez admitted, I don't know that I would. I thought that was very brave of him to say in an interview, first of all. And I thought, oh, wow, and then I got to thinking, I wonder, and I would, you have to have Jorge Jimenez's answer for this, the actor who plays the Mexican father. But I wonder if maybe he doesn't forgive him fully, but he just closes his eyes, opens them again, and decides not to hate the other person. We don't necessarily have to fully forgive someone or love everybody that we don't know, but we don't have to hate them either.
I think people will have opinions, and some people will agree with what we did, and some people won't. I mean, I think, some people will say, hey, you shoot someone on your own land in Texas? What's the crime? And some people will say, are you kidding me? Of course, it's a crime. You killed someone you didn't have to. And I think we want to have that conversation, but we also want it to be honest and complex, and not just like a simple, they're bad, so I can do whatever I want, kind of conversation.
How dare you chase our son off Mexico like he's some criminal?
Things could get a lot worse. Tell him to come home.
No father should bury his son.
Mi padre. No soy nada.
And my last question, I mean, there's so many different things we can talk about with this film, is environment, considering where you shot. You know, that's an interesting thing because the environment imbues the film. It imbues the actors, imbues probably the energy of how you were shooting. Could you talk about that and how that environment that you shot in that city and that area surrounding really affected that?
It's a road movie. You know, this is about a kid who runs away, you know, escapes justice in Texas and then goes on sort of this epic journey through all of Mexico. And we shot the whole movie, you know, in Mexico, did it very authentically. And it, first of all, it you know, it's something you couldn't replicate in the U.S. anyways. Yeah. But it also makes everything look, it looks real because it is real. And I think that does imbue the actors with, you know, the authenticity because they're sitting in it.
Yeah. Nothing helps me as an actor just be good and kind of throw away all the BS as much as being able to like lean down and grab a thing of dirt and run it through your hands before a scene. I mean, it sounds so small or goofy, but like, it's just real. And it kind of, again, it just kind of strips away everything and just allows you to live in those moments. And certainly, you know, coming from an actor, I live in Los Angeles. Plenty of days I go to set and it's a warehouse where I don't see the sun for 8 hours. And so to be able to be in a scene and to be able to turn 360 and not see anything not a part of the story is just, I mean,
have a
so
real funeral band going through the streets or whatever. Like, it makes it real because it's real.
Yeah, makes my job easy.
How dare you chase our son off Mexico like he's some criminal?
Things could get a lot worse. Tell him to come home.
Mi padre. No soy nada.
Jackson.
Sometimes you have to close your eyes and start over to see things clearly.